I have exactly 20 minutes, and so we have a saying at Crush Your Money Goals: we don't work, we worth. All right? So for the next 20 minutes, you guys have sheets at your tables. Each of you grab 2 of them. They're going to say different things on each of the sheets, so each of you should have 2 of them. They should say, face your fears with habits, limit your availability, own your income, and work less, worth more. So you should look at your 2 sheets and notice that they're different. So grab those right now. We are going to get to worthing and start planning the next phase of your business in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Does that sound good? All right, while you're grabbing those papers, I want to share with you a little bit of context. So, as Lauren mentioned, I started Crush Your Money Goals in 2020, but I went to my first FinCon in 2019 just to see if this is something I wanted to do. I had no business plan, I had no friends, I had no idea what the F I was doing there. And actually, Tanya was the main stage speaker at that conference. I was like, wow, she's amazing. Like, maybe I could do this someday. And then look, here we are, right? So, yes. So I say that to you as context in that what I'm about to share with you is what helped me scale my business from 0 to 6 figures consistently. Now I've doubled my income every year for the last 6 years. In 2022, I did a gross of $249K, but I netted 127, not including the salary I paid myself and the full 401k match that I gave to myself too in my business, okay? So I say, thank you. My bookkeeper back there is snapping fingers on that, right? And so above all that, I also, as she mentioned, I'm a first-generation Filipino American. I'm a debt-free millionaire. But what I'm most proud of in building this business is I was able to do this on now what is 20 hours a week. So here's the thing. It's easy to make money when you work a lot. Not as easy when you're like, nope, I'm only working 20 hours a week. So if you are interested in scaling your business and working less, give me a hell yes, please. Okay. All right. So there are 3 rules of engagement that I'm going to give you, right? I normally charge $2,000 per month for business coaching. The only 3 things I ask is, number 1, you do not overthink, because we ain't got time, okay? Now that may be hard for some of us. We're not overthinking the next 20 minutes. Number 2 is I want you to take notes. I have a very expensive psychology degree, and the only useful thing I learned is that our brain is not used for storage. It is used for processing. So write down all your notes and then go process later. And number 3, can you commit to me that you're going to do at least one of these things when you get home from this conference? Yes? Are we good? Are those fair? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through these worth sheets, and I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being strongly disagree and 5 being totally agree on each of these statements, but I want you to just work on the first page. So we're going really fast. You have literally 10 seconds. You're going to go face your fears with habits. That's the first page. Face your fears with habits. All right? I want you to read those statements 10 seconds or less and rate yourself 1 to 5. Face your fears with habits is the first page. So the first one should be, I am at peace with my current financial situation. I am not afraid to make mistakes with money. I genuinely believe I will achieve financial freedom on the exact date I set it to happen. I let go of all negative beliefs that stood in the way of my financial success. I deserve to be wealthy. Rate yourself from 1 to 5 on each of the statements, and then when you're done, look up here, and then we shall discuss. Wow, someone's already done. She's looking at me. You're fast. She's not overthinking. I love it. Now, was anyone at FinCon last year and heard my talk on stage? Oh, thank you. So last year, when I talked on the main stage, I talked about the 4 steps on how I was able to scale my business, and it spells out the acronym FLOW. And one of the biggest points of feedback I got from the conference was like, I showed a picture of my schedule, and they're like, how does your schedule look like that? That doesn't make sense. And so I decided with the smaller group that we have today, let's get our schedules in order. Let's scale down the hours that we are working, because we know as women, we're doing so much more than just our businesses, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is the F in FLOW, which is face your fears with habits. Now, specifically, I want you to look at statement number 4. I let go of all old negative beliefs that stood in the way of my financial success. And here's what I figured out and what was holding me back in my own business. There are 2 main fears that I had that I learned a lot of women also have. Number 1, I hate sales. Anyone else? Does anyone in this room love sales? Does anyone like, you know what? I love selling shit. Okay, we have 2 people, right? I had that same belief that I'm bad at sales, I'm not good at it, I'll be sleazy if I do it. Now, good news is Ellie is here to talk later about sales systems, so I'm not gonna talk about that topic. But number 2, the fear that held me back was that the only way I'm gonna get full-time pay is if I work full-time hours. So I'm just gonna work harder. Who grew up in a household where working hard is the way you get successful? Guess what, ladies? That ain't true. It is not true. It is possible to get full-time pay and not work full-time hours. So as of today, I want you to decide, I am going to build my business on the premise that I'm going to work 20 hours a week. Now some of you are like, that's impossible, how am I gonna do that? Well, guess what, if we fail, worst case scenario, you still work a full 40 hours, right? But let's try to aim for 20 hours. So your first assignment on that page, in the observations, I want you to say, if I were to only work 20 hours a week, what are the days and times that would be most efficient for me in my life right now? So for example, for me, up until this month, it was Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and it would be all day Tuesdays, all day Thursdays, and half day on Wednesdays. And then I realized, wow, all day, 8 meetings in a row on Tuesdays is a lot. So then I adjusted, starting in August, it's gonna be Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, 5 hours, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then the other 5 hours are spread among the other days for me to do classes like this. So right now I want you to, don't overthink this, what are the days that would make sense for you to do 20 hours a week in your business? So write that down right now. Man, I am loud. I see some people are really fast, and I see some overthinking right now. All right, y'all got skeleton of what this could look like. Let's turn over to the next page here. Limit your availability. This is the L in flow. Limit your availability. Some of y'all need to hear me twice when I say this. Limit your availability. Do not be available to anyone that asks you for your time whenever they say, Mommy, can I have this right now? Hey, husband, I need this right now. Hey, neighbor, I need this right. Hey, guess what? If you want to have an efficient lifestyle, you're going to have to limit your availability. That's really hard. It was actually the hardest thing that I had to do. Now, I want you to rate yourself on those statements on this page. 1 to 5. I am creating financial success for myself to create financial opportunities for others. I am surrounded by positive and supportive people who believe in my financial goals. When I need help, I effortlessly attract the perfect people with the perfect solutions. I have more than one brilliant money mentor who graciously shares their wisdom and guidance. Hopefully y'all say 5 on that because you're here today. And there is no one hindering my ability to show up as the most powerful version of myself. Rate yourself from 1 to 5 on those. By the way, if you rate yourself less than 5 on any of those things, that is okay. We're being honest with ourselves. Ain't no one gonna see your worksheet other than yourself. All right. Now, when it comes to limiting your availability, I talk a lot about the fact that turns out when I put less hours out to my customers and to my clients, they just fell into the slots that I gave them. How many of us opened up our entire calendar because we're like, well, we want to be accommodating to other people? Oh, but maybe they're working, maybe they're a busy mom too or whatever, so I have to open up my whole calendar. No, it's actually the opposite. When you truncate the amount of hours that you're available, people will say, you know what, I need to get on her calendar, and I will show up, and I will do my homework, and I will be prepared because she ain't playing around, right? But in order for this to happen, there's two sides to the coin here. Number one, starting today, you must break up with all the energy vampires in your life. I don't think I even have to explain what an energy vampire is. I think y'all, from that reaction, sounds like you know. That is the biggest time suck in most people's businesses. It's not the actual processes, it's not your tasks, it's not all of those things. It's because you're dealing with people that you do not need to deal with. That's in your friends, that's in your family, that's in your client list, that's the trolls on the internet. I'll tell you a quick story. I shared some of these tips, if you're on my newsletter, I shared some of these tips yesterday. And I got 3 different email responses. The first one was, seriously? Prove it, otherwise take me off this list. Number 2 was, oh my gosh, I read your newsletter today and it was so helpful. Here are the 2 points that I took away. I'm going to implement them today. Number 3 was, Bernadette, you've been so helpful. I've been following you for years now. I want to bring you to my organization and I want other people to learn from you now. Now here's the hard part. Ooh, I wanted to go back to that first person and be like, bitch, what is your problem? What is your problem? And I started writing the email and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So you know what I did? I unsubscribed her. And I did not respond. Number 2, I said, thank you so much. I hope these tips work for you. And number 3, I scheduled a meeting ASAP because that was going to be a multi-$1,000 deal. But how many times do we spend time on bullshit? On bullshit, right? So starting today, that person you giggled about who's the energy vampire in your life, they got to go. They gotta go. And on the flip side of the coin, I want you to start thinking about all that energy that I spent on those energy vampires. Who deserves that energy instead? Who is most likely to succeed with the offering that I have available to them right now? Now, here's the other problem I notice with a lot of my female business clients. We want to help everybody. Anyone who asks, we're like, oh, but I can help you. I can help you. Like, I know I can do it. But here's the truth. We are not for everybody. We cannot be. And then there's all these things about niches and your target market and all of that stuff. It's very simple. Who is most likely to succeed with the offering that you have now? It's not who you think needs it or who you think you can help right now. It's who is most likely to succeed. And I learned that the hard way. I let a lot of people into my programs early on who were not ready to receive. So instead, I've really narrowed down my focus to the people who are most likely to succeed because they're showing up, they're willing to pay, and they're doing the work. Right? So let's go to the O in flow. Own your income. So rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 with these statements. I am creative with how I manage my money. I am 100% responsible with every way money flows away from me. I am well organized and manage my time, money, and energy with expert efficiency. I trust my intuition, and I am always guided to make wise financial decisions. And I am committed to achieving financial success in every area of my life. Now, here's one of the biggest gripes I have with a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of us, we don't know how much money we're going to make 1 month to the next, right? Here's the hard truth, ladies. Who's responsible for that? Who? Not a rhetorical question. Who's responsible to make sure that we get paid? Us, right? So here's how I want you to start thinking about how you can start paying yourself back faster than just like what we talked about, paying yourself first. So remember I said 20 hours a week. Pure math's sake, let's say there's 50 weeks in a year. Take 2 weeks off, right? That is 1,000 hours per year. Could you get a lot of stuff done in 1,000 hours per year? Yes. The question is, are we doing the right things? So I want you today, right now, to write down, in 2024, how much money do I want to make? And I want you to aim for at least 6 figures, at least. 100K, 250K, 500K, $1 million. Write that down. Now, we're all personal finance people, so I assume we're decently good at division, right? Take that number and divide it by 1,000. So if it's 100,000, it's 100. If it's 250,000, it's 250. If it's $1 million, it's 1,000. Guess what? That is your new benchmark for where you look at every activity you're doing in your business and ask yourself, is it worth that much? So let's go to the last piece here. Let's go to W, which is work less and worth more. Rate yourself on these statements. I am free of financial stress and I thrive under financial pressure. I am not sacrificing any part of my physical or mental health for my career. I have a never-ending supply of profitable ideas to attract wealth to me. I am truly excited by every person I interact with in my career. And I am successfully living up to my full potential. Now, keep that number in mind. If it's 100, if it's 250, if it's 500, ask yourself, are you working or are you worthing? Does it make sense for you to do some of the admin stuff that you could outsource instead? Here's the kicker. I don't have any employees. I'm making all of this money myself, right? Ask yourself, do I need to spend the time and energy in this? Is this working or is this worthing? Now here's what I'll say, because we're a room of women and it inevitably comes up. Imposter syndrome is not worth it. Comparison is not worth it, okay? Self-doubt is not worth it. Now, it's not to say that I don't have it, but what I do is I don't let that creep into my 20 hours, and I schedule a very specific time every month with my therapist to talk about that shit, but it doesn't show up in my 20 hours, right? So ask yourself, am I working or am I worthing, and are the activities, and please, save the mental gymnastics for outside of your 20 hours and use that time to grow your business and your income and your self-worth, right? So here's the last thing I'm going to say, because I needed this reminder, so I'm really just saying it to you as my accountability partners. No amount of income is worth sacrificing your health. No amount of income, I don't care if you put $1 million on that paper, no amount of income is worth sacrificing your health. So I hope you take these worksheets, because each of these also serve as a great affirmation on the days that you're not feeling like up to doing things. And I will remind you that one of the best things that helped me move my business forward was motion over motivation. To me, motivation is a fallacy. Do you need to be motivated to brush your teeth and comb your hair and take a shower? Sometimes I do, actually. I'm not going to lie. There's some days where I do have to be motivated. But what will move your business forward is continuing to make moves every single time you show up for those 20 hours, even if they're small. So write down right now, what is the one thing that you're going to commit to after our discussion today? What is one thing you're going to do? Are you going to fire those energy vampires? Are you going to start looking at your business activities and asking if it's worth $100 per hour? Are you going to save the self-doubt and the comparison and the mental gymnastics for your therapy sessions and not for your business? What is one thing you can start doing today? I really appreciate you going through this 20 minutes. Please give yourselves a round of applause for doing some hard work today.
That was so good. Did you guys love that? You bring the energy every time. Love it. Okay, so we're gonna do a Q&A, and I have some questions for you based on what you talked about. So in the 20 hours a week, now I don't know if you girls are like this, but in my time off, has anybody ever seen the movie Up? Okay, the dog that's like squirrel, right, and like chases it. I feel like I'm like that all day long. Like I have a great idea, and then another great idea, and then how do you shut your brain off on those 20? You work your 20 hours, and then on the time off, like what are you doing with your brain to not chase all of these other things that come up in your head?
Yes, so it sounds very oversimplified, but whenever I have a squirrel idea, I carry around a BTS notebook. If anyone knows K-pop, I have a BTS notebook, and in my BTS notebook, I write down any ideas that are coming to me right now, and I table it for the time that I have to work on those ideas. I don't stop what I'm doing right now and then switch gears, so I save those for later. And then the other thing I would say on that is I've learned to batch energy. So we know about batching content, right? Anyone else an introvert? Ooh, okay, we have a lot of introverts in this room. I learned that switching between different tasks was actually burning more energy for me versus saying, okay, I'm gonna block off 2, 3, 4 hours to work on just client meetings. I'm going to only work 2, 3, or 4 hours on just content creation, right? And so for me, removing some of the squirrel energy is saying, okay, this block of time is specifically for this type of brain work, and that helped me not have so much of that like, ooh, shiny object thing.
Yeah, I love that. I also have a notebook where I write down all of it's like a 24-hour, like I can't act on anything within 24 hours because I've made so many silly mistakes, right, from acting on those things. Okay, so what about, like anybody here a people pleaser? Anybody? Okay, everybody,
Recovering.
right?
I'm former.
I consider myself a recovering people pleaser. So how do you were talking about that, like giving your time to the energy vampires. What are some things that you've told yourself, and maybe some phrases that you've told people to not, go beyond the boundaries that you've set up for yourself?
There's 3 things that come to mind. Number 1, for my fellow content creators, just don't read the comments. Just don't. Like, there's a bunch of rando people, right? Number 2 is, I'm a little bit of an analytics nerd, so one day I actually pulled all of the negative comments that I got on some of my posts, and I tried to find some trend analysis between them. Like, what's common between these people? And you know what I found was common? Is that none of them knew me, and none of them paid me, and none of them are where I want to be. So, I only take feedback, positive or negative, from people who I admire and who are in a place where I say, you know what, that's a role model, that's someone I want to emulate in some shape or form, and everyone else can go fly a kite.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
Yes.